Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Mattson.
Better read than dead.
We appreciate you tuning in. As always, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, bell notification button, follow button, all those buttons. Click them, push them, do whatever you got to do. Keep up with us. We appreciate it. It also helps grow the podcast, which to us is just as important, but we're just glad you're listening. So thanks for doing that. Or watching if you're on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about She-Hulk. Season 1, episode 4, right?
4 of 9?
9.
10?
9.
All right, JJ, how are you feeling? Because last episode we were very cold.
Yeah, I was very rough on this last episode, and I stick to the first 3 episodes not being a fan. This episode started to turn around for me, which I was surprised because I've not, and I said this I think on the first or second episode, maybe it was the last one. I've not been looking forward to this dating app episode that we saw in the previews, but it was funny. I found because they didn't go overboard with it, right? Like it was there, it was part of the ongoing gag of the episode, but it wasn't like the only thing we saw. And then it was riddled with Wong, who I love Wong, and so it was funny. But I didn't hate this episode. Now, I can't pinpoint whether it's because there was so much Wong, so it was funny, or the fact that Wong was suing a magician. It was just like there was so much weird, silly shit in this episode that I found myself laughing and enjoying it. And I'd still go back and watch the whole season of Miss Marvel before I watched this episode again, but it was the best of the 4 in my opinion.
I mean, I did like that drunk girl, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
What was her nickname for Wong? Wongster?
Wongers?
Wongers. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, Wongers.
That chick was funny. She made me laugh. Like just I think it was hard sometimes with this is the satire is to a point that it's so over the top that like the courtroom scenes are like that would never happen in a real court. But I guess at the same time, I don't know. Like I didn't mind it. I was like, it's funny. Yeah. Like this is funny because that would never happen. But this episode, yeah, like I watched it and I gotta say, like I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of funny. It got back to maybe where the first one was at for me, where I was kind of pleasantly intrigued. Like, okay, like all right, it's more whimsical. Don't know how important this is to an extent, but I think they have something unique here where they can technically time whatever individuals they want into the MCU here because of the superhero division that she's a part of. And while I know they won't do that with everyone, there's so many directions that they could go with this. And it looks like they spoiler alert, they brought back what's her name? Tatiana.
Titania.
Yeah, Titania, that's what it is. And I'm assuming she's going to turn into, I don't know what kind of villain that we're going to, if there's so much as a villain in this season, more as like a focal point or something. But I was happy to see that towards the end that I'm like, okay, like we see how this plays out, where this plays out. I don't know. Again, I don't have high confidence that it's just so different because this isn't like an action movie to me. It's like a comedy. And so I find myself not caring about the action scenes. Like the whole magician thing was with those weird, like gargoyle-ish looking things. Like I thought that was probably the worst part of I didn't really care for the action. And then, and a lot of what Marvel has given us lately is this, where I question like, well, what is it I'm watching? And I think that's what's been hard for me in this transition. And this episode still got me questioning. I'm like, well, with Titania, like, I don't even think they're going to fight. Like, are they just going to have banter in a courtroom and throw shade at each other through social media and weird stuff like that? I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, it was, and I laughed. So when she gets served at the end of the episode by Titania for trademarking She-Hulk, like I laughed pretty loud at that because that's like one of these common, like if you ever watch, I don't love them, but Casey really enjoys like courtroom serials. Like, so like not silly stuff. Like she loves Suits, which is more a little intense,
Yeah,
and
I've
then
seen Suits. Yeah.
so she likes a couple of those shows, and so there's almost always an episode like this where someone sues someone for a copyright. In fact, we just got done watching a documentary about a pharmaceutical company that I don't even remember, but it was a real story about this woman that creates this company that's trying to invent a new way to take blood so you can get blood tests with only one drop of blood and stuff.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Theranos.
Theranos, yeah. So we just watched this documentary series about Theranos, and that's what triggers some of. She has these lawsuits where this guy gets a patent on something that he knows that they're going to need, so that he can get a buyout from Theranos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it's funny. I laughed like because there's always that episode where somebody does something like just to get a buyout or to mess with them. So I was like, oh my god, that's funny when he got sued or she got served like that. Um, and then the way that she got served with him trying to hand her like a box, like a gift, and she goes, "Come on now, I'm a lawyer. Just give me the damn summons." So, yeah, I thought it was clever. I thought it was funny. The CGI wasn't bad, and I've realized. So I was looking at some behind the scenes. They showed behind the scenes of her office, and we talked last time why the CGI was so bad in her office. It's because these guys are on a studio set and they got blue screen behind the windows. So the city behind New York City behind the windows in their office is also CGI. So you got CGI on CGI as she's crossing the windows. So not only does the white create that awful transition, but you have the CGI on CGI, which is terrible too.
At some point, you gotta just ask Hollywood. It's like maybe we don't just fully lean on CGI. Maybe like do half of it because you could still have a physical office and then superimpose something without like I don't.
Yeah.
I don't get that. In fact, it's funny you bring that up because there's a preview on Netflix for like crap. It has Mark Wahlberg and the Kevin Hart. It's some new show that just came out, and they just put there's a scene where this like not a bobcat but like a mountain lion is imposed on there, and then they're standing out in what looks like the Grand Canyon, but they must be on like a blue screen, and then they put in like this mountain lion, and it just looks horrible. But we continue to see more of this where you just question like these TV shows are their budget's not to the scale that we would expect like a movie to be at, and this is becoming the norm, and I don't think it's for the better.
No, I don't either. I think, and we've said it a few times on this podcast throughout reviews, that I think there needs to be a return to some of the more practical effect styles. Even, and I'm not saying go fully practical. I get that CGI has the technology to make things better, but that combination of the two is almost universally much, much better than just pure CGI. Mm-hmm. So I just wish they would get back to that, figure it out so that we can get the good look that we want, you know? Like, pay good money to go to these movies.
Like something we recently reviewed, Westworld, where they found this amazing hotel location that had some iconic architecture, and they use that, but then use a massive blue screen and green screen to weave in New York City in some of the other elements, but they still use practical effects to an extent, and I thought they blended that well. But then you've got the She-Hulk here, that where apparently they just did double blue screen. It's like, why didn't they at least even like build a set if they wanted to have an office that they had, and then use just some CGI? Like, I think it's just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, agreed. So there were a couple other little subtle things that I really enjoyed about this episode, and I feel like part of, now that I'm thinking about it and we're talking about it out loud, like I think one of the things that made this episode better is it's a touch longer. It's about 10 minutes longer.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was 35 minutes.
Stupid end credit crap.
True. Yeah, no, the episode itself, like it was a total of 35 minutes, and most of them up to this point have been 24, 27 total. So this one was 35 minutes. So it had a few more minutes to it, and I feel like the whole episode slowed down its pace, which was nice. It wasn't rushing to get done in 24 minutes or 25 minutes. I'd rather have that extra 5, 6, 7 minutes that we can slow down, because I noticed things that I didn't before. like when she wakes up in the morning and you see Jennifer as Jennifer and she's wearing the suit that's like 3 sizes too big and it just looks really silly, but they slowed down and had a conversation long enough that you got to see she doesn't want to be in the Hulk form all the time. So she's wearing this suit that's way too big for her so that when she transitions into the Hulk, it doesn't split the suit anymore. So it's just funny to see those little nuances. And then this more serious part is like the actual character development. There was enough time to see some actual emotion and the feeling that she's having right now, right? So she gets on this dating app, which I've never had to deal with that, but anybody like I have friends that do it, and I'm like, man, I couldn't. What a terrible way to have to do that, right? Like I can't imagine the swipe being part of the swipe generation. So watching someone do that, and then she meets these terrible dates, and then she meets someone that she's having a good time with, she thinks, and then when she's not the She-Hulk, she gets this whole, well, I'm not interested anymore, right? Like, so that would be awful. Like she's this whole persona that she never wanted, got it because of an accident in a terrible place to be. And then that's what she's having to be more often than not because of her situations. And I'm just like, and you see that when he leaves, like she's just like crushed, you know what I mean? So I liked that the episode took its time a little more so we could see some of those little nuances and some of those things that I don't feel like we've been able to because of the pace and the length of these episodes so far.
For our listeners, I mean, I'm going to get a little weird here. Like, so she goes from normal size woman to She-Hulk size. Like, is that guy's dick like gonna fill the void there, or I don't know how that works. The proportions seem a little off to me. Yeah, I don't know if you thought about that. I just thought about it now because we're talking about it, and I was like, when she carried him into the bed, I don't know what this man was, if he wanted a dominatrix or he wanted to just be treated like a giant baby because she's bigger than him. I don't know. Like, I'm curious about this dude's motivation. Does he find the She-Hulk attractive?
I mean,
they try to make her look attractive enough. Like, I get that, but at the same time, she's also like 2 feet taller than him, or 3 feet, or 4 feet, whatever it turns out to be, and can lift a ton, which again must not be that impressive to that other guy because he can deadlift 600 and he's no superhero. I thought that part was funny. I was like,
okay. That was funny.
I could get like one of those big bodybuilders that's into like ripped women if they were into her, and maybe that's what that guy was. I was like, well, maybe that's his thing because he was pretty big himself. I don't know. I mean, I'm just rambling now.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know about the proportions because I'm no anatomy specialist as far as all that.
I feel like She-Hulk could be in some serious pornos though.
Oh, for sure. That would be, she'd make millions just on that. I do laugh though when you brought that up. Like, I had this visual of this 6'7" She-Hulk on the bottom and this dude that's shorter than her on top. Like, how awkward that would look.
He looked like a little hobbit.
That shit made me laugh. Like, just the visual of that. I was sitting there, you were talking, I was trying real hard not to just bust out laughing because that's all I could see in that. And then like in the inverse, like them like, let's change positions, and she gets on top and he's just this little dude like in between her legs. That shit makes me giggle. I don't know why that visual in my head is getting me, but that shit's funny as hell. I had fun with this episode, and I think that's part of it. It was silly and relatable. That's the other thing, is it was a very relatable episode. Like,
we haven't even gotten to the best part though, when the girl's name escapes me, when she ruins the episode of Sopranos and then does it again. Like, you just know how that feels. You're like, oh man,
when Wong, you ruined it. I did like their dynamic, and the after credit scene was really funny too, where she's like, oh, Wongers, and he gets all excited. He's got that. Like, Benedict Wong is a genius at playing this character. The other thing that worked too in with that is, because you're right, those two, and she added a lot to the episode, like drunk, sober. She was funny. But the other one is the fourth wall breaks were actually good in this one. Like, the timing was good. They were funny. I thought they were the best of the 4 episodes by far. Most of them haven't been great. Like I'm like, oh, that's terrible timing. But this one, I think most of them, I think there might have been one where I was like, oh, that was a dud. But I think the rest were actually pretty decent timing because a lot of them she didn't really talk either. She just kind of looked and was like, but I laughed at the first one where she's like, oh, everybody loves Wong. like, like I was like, yeah, we do. We love Wong.
Like, you know. Yeah, like I think all in all, more intrigued if they stay more in this and the episodes maybe a little longer, and we bring in Titania. And again, I don't know what that looks like because they're definitely set. I just don't feel like She-Hulk's like a fighter, like that they haven't really set her up for that, and like
Yeah.
a big bad compelling villain. Like this is overly satirical that I just don't think they can go back to that, and that's okay if they somehow stay in that lane. But I'm skeptical, but have been brought back a little bit after this episode.
Yeah. Same here. They did set up with the conversation with her dad, which I laughed too. When he came in, he's got all like the security shit and the shovel. That group that were in the construction, that's an actual group. And I can't believe I missed it when watching it. But in the MCU, that's an actual group. They're called the Wrecking Crew.
Oh,
And so I think we'll see them again because they hinted at that. But yeah, that's the Wrecking Crew. They're an actual, and it's funny because did you watch the Hawkeye series at all?
and I don't think I finished it, so just a little bit. So let's go with it now.
They remind me there's a group in there, and it's a much bigger gang, but they're called the Tracksuit Mafia, and they're kind of like they're stupid, but they're like funny, and so like they're good comic relief. And I think that you might see some more of that with the Wrecking Crew coming through. Because when I watched the preview, I did laugh at like the glowing construction equipment and like them thinking that they were going to do something to She-Hulk with like a crowbar and a pry bar. So we'll probably see more Wrecking Crew since they came up again. But
Could work.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think all in all, it was a nice change from the first three, especially the second and third episode. I hope they continue on. I hope we get to see more of Titania, and I hope they do start to throw in, maybe some more. I want a villain, and even if it's Titania, I want someone that I'm like, okay, how's this battle gonna go? And I'd be okay, like you say, if there wasn't as much like fighting, if it was more like the subterfuge and like how are they gonna work through the court system and how's this gonna interact? Like I'd be okay with that.
It's gonna get scandalous, JJ. It's gonna be a bunch of leaked videos and things, weird stuff like that.
I thought they were gonna do something like that with one of her dates, like, or like have a bunch of people like taking pictures, like selfies, and posting them because she's so famous right now. Like she's the hot new superhero. So we'll see. They got a lot of things that they could do, so I hope they get some of them right. But
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. We'll be back to review episode 5 of 9 next week. So tune in for that. I still can't get over the fact there's 9 more. There's like 4 or 5 more episodes. Okay. Mattson, tell everybody where else they can find us.
Can find us on whatsourverdict.com to kind of see what's upcoming. Check our coming soon page. A lot of TV shows right now with Rings of Power. Andor's about to come up for Star Wars, and we're also doing House of the Dragon, which has been pretty awesome. Interspersing some older movies and some newer ones, but not really till like mid-October. I guess Pinocchio and Hocus Pocus are coming out, so we'll watch those. Getting into the spirit of Halloween here shortly. And you can check us out on TikTok to watch some random movie trivia and stuff with tigers and throwing shade at our co-hosts, being really just JJ and I, because Alec makes fun of us. You can listen to us wherever good podcasts can be found at What's Our Verdict Reviews and on YouTube as well if you want to see our bright and shining faces.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mattson. There it is. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!